that Kennedy has defamed him based on the film Who Watches the Watchman. Kennedy shows up in court. You heard him saying that he won't go to court if an ass won't take off his face, blah, blah, blah. Kennedy shows up in court, and then the judge rules. And the judge makes Anas. When Anas files the writ in court, Kennedy then decides to go for the defense of justification. So if you tell me that I'm a ready, okay, maybe if I roll it, it will come. Okay, so this one, no, okay. Anas contended that the judge displayed bias against the lawyers. Okay, well, let me do that. Anas contended that first, and then I'll come to this one. So just bring me that one so that people can follow properly. Anas contended that, yes, correct. It says Mr. Anas contended that this judge displayed bias against him and unfairly criticized his investigative methods, made pronouncements without any evidence backing same from the case before him. Mr. Kennedy Japan countered, asserting that any party to a suit could petition the blah blah blah. Okay, so this is the main thing. Anas contended that the judge had been biased against him. Now, why did Anas say the judge had been biased? Let's see it. It's going to come now. Why did Anas say the judge had been biased? I believe, is it the next one? Okay, this is it. This is the judge speaking in the case, the trial judge. He says, quote, the president and the prime minister who the plaintiff and his team had targeted, president of Ghana and prime minister of Cote d'Ivoire, who the plaintiff Anas and his team had targeted, are leaders of their nations. They embody the soul and spirit of their nations. They are obliged to lead by example. So if they engage in corrupt acts, journalists like Anas and indeed any citizen is entitled to expose them. However, a preemptive and justified attack on their credibility, unprovoked by any credible suspicion of a specific act of corruption engaged in or about to be engaged in by them, such as drawing them into a trap so as to be caught in a contrived corruption setup, as was alleged by Kennedy Japan and backed by Exhibit KOA4, was unwarranted and devious. The learned trial judge then followed up with a statement which ended with the expression, that is not investigative journalism, it is investigative terrorism. That's what the judge said about Anas. That's what he said. Now, Anas then with his lawyers decide that the judge had been biased against them. So they file an application to the Supreme Court. What are they asking for the Supreme Court? They are asking for the Supreme Court to issue to quash. They call it certiorari. But the lawyer will explain when he gets here. But certiorari means to issue to quash. And this was to the Supreme Court for a determination. So Anas goes to the Supreme Court that, look, this judge, he's been biased against me. But when you're asking the judge, you cannot be biased against people. That's for sure. You cannot be biased. The judge must rule the matter as an umpire, unbiased umpire. So Anas alleging that the judge has been biased against him is a substantial ground of allegation, isn't it? Now, the Supreme Court is now set up. So the judgment comes. 3 of the judges sided with the High Court. Okay, you didn't change it. 3 of the judges sided with the High Court's judge. And then 2 of the judges sided with Anas. So Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, Mr. Justice Samuel Asiedu, and Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu all sided with the judge that he was right in saying those things and giving the ruling. 3 of them. Here they are. The Lord Chief Justice Gertrude Saki Tokonu, and Mr. Justice Samuel Asiedu, and Professor Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu. All 3 of them agreed with the position that the judge was correct. Okay, so let's look at the reasons that these judges gave. The reason that even if the judge's statements were opinionated and were not legally sounding, Anas should pursue appeal instead of a certiorari. They also noted Anas's failure to object to the judge's selection during the case hearing. Okay, so let's see whether there's more. The remaining 2 judges were Justice Yoni Kulendi and Justice Amadou Tanko. Yoni Kulendi and Amadou Tanko sided with Anas. Let's get more from the okay, so this is Justice Yoni Kulendi and this is Justice Tanko. What we are going to do is to explain to you what the majority decision was and what the minority decision was, and then we'll get into the conversation with Lawyer Bafo. All right. So supported Anas's position for granting the certiorari to nullify the judgment while acknowledging the Chief Justice's right to select a judge. They agreed with Anas's contention of bias and unwarranted criticism. These two judges agreed with Anas that there was bias and unwarranted criticism, particularly when the allegations made by the judge require a higher standard of proof to substantiate. That's where I'm coming to. However, despite their stance, the majority ruled against Anas, resulting in a 3-2. I'll get to more, but let me explain this part. Now, Justice Kulendi is saying something that is important, very, very important. Can you have me back Kulendi and Amadou Tanko's photograph? Justice Kulendi is explaining something very important. He says that the things that the judge said about Anas, they are matters of criminality. And to come to the conclusion of matters of criminality, there has to be a criminal procedure. Okay. So, in a criminal trial, the standards are higher than a civil trial. If you have to show that somebody is a thief, you have to show it 100% without doubt that he's a thief. If you show it 99%, he's not a thief. That's what it means to say beyond reasonable doubt. If you have to show that somebody has committed fraud, you have to show it 100%. If you want to show that somebody has defrauded somebody by false pretenses, you have to show it 100%. What does it mean show it 100%? 100% means that Paul Ademochi has committed fraud. He did that. Paul Ademochi says, the day you said I committed the fraud, what floor did I commit the fraud on? You were on the 4th floor. No, that day I never went to the 4th floor. I was on the 2nd floor. That's all Paul Ademochi needs to show. 1% doubt, he hasn't committed fraud. That's the standard of the criminal trial. Why is it so? It is so because when you find somebody guilty of criminal offense, you are going to curtail his freedoms. You are going to put him in prison to curtail his freedoms. Let him live somewhat less than a human being, because the society abhors what he has done. So he has to be punished first for himself, and secondly as a deterrent for other people who are looking at him, so that nobody does that. Because of that, he is thought of as a social pariah, if you like, and so he's kept away. The Constitution gives every human being rights. So for you to take somebody's rights, the law requires you to have established it properly. Properly. That's what it means by beyond reasonable doubt. And that's what Justice Kulendi is saying. And I'm coming to say it in 3 now. So, yeah, can I say, Anas, Nick Kennedy, upon a seminar, a buyer. Anas, a court say Kennedy did not him. We're going to Hufi. Who watches a Watchman video, BOE, and they're going to Hufi. Of course, when I Kennedy say, oh, Anas, me go Hufi, say, who offended that? Who Anas, who fi poto, who ye blackmailer, who ye say, until who fi ben amego. And a judge in the bisa Kennedy say, na di enti na okeke kasanya manyeme. And I Kennedy say, mami video bin chiro, Mr. Judge. O yi video no chire judge no share video na no say, na naspa, na wuti wa adwuma wo ye nie. Debi, we dey enje. That's what the judge said. And Anas echo Supreme Court say, asama ye bua wo high court no. Judge no sorry ya. Ono ese ogina mfinfin no. Ono judge na ese ogina mfinfin no. O sorry ya. O say me yeah, asama judge ne kan enye. This is what Justice Kulendi and Justice Tanko are saying. That you cannot come to the conclusion that somebody is a thief.